We are following a breaking story off the coast of Miami Beach here. We can tell you this is the Carnival cruise liner Ecstasy. It caught fire at about 20 to 6 this evening, and the flames intensified as the cruise liner moved closer and closer to shore. It later stopped at about 10 after 6, and there are 2 ships right now externally trying to battle the flames. Again, he talked about how he had started in the crew laundry. We had that confirmed through the Coast Guard. Have we lost Ivan? Okay, it seems we've lost him. But as he told you, a little bit of fear. There are a lot of children. He talked about that and how people were told to move to the Lido deck. And Kimberly, I know you've cruised quite a bit. Tell us, if you can, when you get on these cruise ships, the safety procedures and so forth. You know, do they ever go through drills or something in anticipation of an emergency like this?
Well, certainly the very first thing they do when they leave the port is they tell you what the drill is. They provide you with the life jackets. They tell you where they are in the staterooms where you are. They tell you immediately where you should go, so that you can familiarize yourself with what they call the station where you're going to go, just in case something happens. Typically, they don't tell you that this is what we'll do in case of fire, this is what we'll do in case of whatever kind of emergency. They just say when you hear the whistle of the ship's horn, so many beeps, that means there is a problem. Go to your muster stations, and everyone has a specific place to go, and that's where the staff is trained from the various staff of the Carnival ship is trained to tell people what they should do. We know that the Coast Guard now has been in contact with the captain of the ship and the crew. Right now they're reporting no injuries at this point in time, and they would be passing that information along as well. The captain and the head of the fire suppression team on board that ship are remaining in contact. They have a panel on the ship that lets them know exactly where there might be fire. I've seen the panel, the emergency boards that they have there on the ship, and it's very sophisticated, actually, that lets you know what areas of the ship might be a problem. There are a sprinkler system on board the ship as well. Throughout most of the cabin, the areas that are going to be inhabited by passengers. This part of the ship, the mooring deck of the ship, is not an area where there would be any passengers staying. So whether or not they have sprinklers there is another story. Certainly the level just above where you see the flames right now are cabins, it would be important to know that there is a fire suppression equipment there able to fight that fire to make sure that it doesn't spread any further.
A spokesman for the ship's owner, Carnival Corporation, is saying right now that none of the more than 2,000 passengers are going to need to be evacuated at this time. Mike Barney is one of those passengers joining us live right now via telephone. Mike, where are you and what are you being told right now?
Hello?
Mike, go right ahead. Yes. Tell us what you're being told.
They're just telling us to stay calm and just wear our life vests. What's going on with these Baba buoys? They don't want to spray the stern, spray the Howard stern?
Okay, Mike, let's talk a little bit about...
All right, we are returning our coverage. We're returning our coverage now here on CNN. Our pictures are coming to us courtesy WSVN in Miami. Looking at the Carnival Cruise Line ship, the Ecstasy, a fire that has been underway on the ship for now about an hour. Just about an hour ago, this fire broke out. This Carnival Cruise Line ship, the Ecstasy, had left earlier this evening. It was just beginning a 4-day, 5-night cruise outbound from Miami. Passenger load on this ship about 2,000, just over 2,000 passengers. We do not know exactly how many were on board, but the capacity is 2,040 for this ship. The Coast Guard telling a local station in Miami that it believes that the fire started in the laundry area. It is the stern of the ship, as you saw there, where the heaviest smoke and flame has been coming out. We've been watching that, and we understand from the Miami station that that is the mooring deck, an area where passengers do not normally stay. Again, this was just shortly after the ship had left port. In fact, apparently you can see it from the Miami coast. CNN correspondent Mark Potter joins us now on the line with late information from Miami. Mark?
Well, I just spoke to a spokesman for the Coast Guard who said that the ship captain has made no request for an evacuation, that such a request would have to be made, and that they believe that the situation, at least in terms of that, is under control. The Coast Guard has a number of cutters coming to the area from around the Straits of Florida. Some planes are also flying into the area to help monitor and to help with the situation. But right now, most importantly, there is no need, according to the captain, for the people to evacuate. So the Coast Guard is in that mode. They are there to help fight the fire, but are not at this time planning to help with any sort of evacuation. The spokesman for the Coast Guard said the one bit of good news in this is that the ship is indeed so close to shore. If there were to be the need for an evacuation, again, if, it could be done much easier where it is now as opposed to being on the open seas, on the high seas. The other good news is that the port of Miami is fairly close by. If they had to tow the ship in using tugboats, they could do that, remove the passengers at the port, and then fight the fire from land with fire trucks, a much easier proposition than what they're facing now. But again, the decision seems to be right now to fight the fire where it is without having to remove the passengers. The passengers are on the front of the ship, they're on the bow. They seem to be up there in a fairly orderly procedure, and there is no effort right now to remove them. There is also no effort to remove any of the covers from the lifeboats from what we can see. So the situation is being handled in that way. A tugboat has come out from the port and is throwing water on the fire. The Coast Guard boat is standing by in the same area. Other ships are en route, and that's the situation right now.
Yes, and Mark, and we understood from earlier reporting from CNN's Susan Candiotti that the feeling may be at this point that it is better to keep the ship holding still so that the crew can concentrate on the fire situation rather than on moving the ship.
Exactly. The Coast Guard officials are saying that the situation is such that that's the thing they need to do now. There is no imminent threat to the passengers, and all efforts are being made now toward fighting the fire.
Can you, from your vantage point, tell us how many? We see one cutter there pointed directly at the flame area. Do you see other craft in the area?
There is a tugboat that we're looking at that's throwing water on the fire right now. There's a small 41-foot utility boat that's there from the Coast Guard, and that's it right now. Other ships are en route, steaming as quickly as they can from parts around the Straits of Florida.
Is this, relatively speaking, a passenger ship carrying 2,000 capacity for 2,000 passengers? It looks to me, a person not very experienced with cruise ships, to be a very large ship. Is it, in your experience, of the larger ships coming out from the port of Miami there?
I don't know if it's the largest or even among the largest. This is a very common sight in Miami, particularly this time of day. A number of ships come and go from Miami in the late afternoon, and this is not an unusual sight at all. They are often loaded to the gills, if you will, with passengers, and this is not at all an unusual situation in that regard.
Do you know further whether people are able to see this from Miami? We understood from Susan Candiotti earlier that it is within sight. This
very
area. Definitely.
There's a whole row of hotels right there, and anyone with a waterside view is watching this very closely. It is not very far from shore. I cannot tell you exactly the distance, but from the shot that we could see taken from a helicopter just behind the hotels, you could see the hotel and the ship all in the same shot. It's not very far away, and I'm sure that a lot of people on Miami Beach are getting a close view of this right now.
And certainly watching a lot of it on television as well. Again, we've been getting a lot of our pictures from the local affiliates there in Miami. Several of the stations there contributing to our CNN coverage of this. If you are just joining us now, I want to give you a little more information on what you are looking at. This is the Carnival Cruise Line ship, the Ecstasy. It is off the coast of Miami, a ship that left earlier this evening. It was just beginning a 5-night cruise through the Keys area down to Mexico and returning, a ship that could carry a passenger load of 2,040 people. And just about 5:40 this evening, a little over an hour ago, the fire was spotted at the stern of the ship in the lower decks of the stern of this large cruise line ship. We have seen a number of the passengers on the top decks of the ship, many of them wearing life vests, but they did appear to be orderly. Some information, some calls had come in to local television stations in Miami. We heard one caller try to communicate to the local station in Miami that there was not panic on the ship, that people were remaining orderly, although understandably rather concerned about the situation. We have been watching very thick black smoke developing. CNN correspondent Mark Potter is telling us on the telephone line just a few minutes ago that the Coast Guard is bringing in its equipment from various areas, different cutters and helicopters as well, to join in the assistance. Right now you are seeing one of the tugboats. Because this is very close to the port of Miami, the tugboats are in this immediate area. One of the tugboats there spraying water, trying to get it in and dousing the fire from its position. We've also watched some of the cruise line ship crew people trying to spray from above down to the lower part of the deck, the mooring deck, we are told, of the ship, where they're seeing the flames shooting out. But as we can see in this picture, there's still flame underneath in the lower parts of this deck. Mark Potter, can you give us any additional information coming to us on the cruise line, the Coast Guard, in terms of what they will be able to do for the folks who are on board?
We're not getting anything new in that regard, but watching these pictures, I can see something that I think is important. This tugboat is able to get water inside the area that's burning. The person who was trying to use a hose to get water from higher up on the ship was not very effective, because none of the water was going inside. Now the hose from the tugboat is trained on that area, and water is clearly getting inside. And yes, we are still able to see some flames, but nothing like what we were seeing 10 minutes ago. So maybe this effort is actually having some effect. It
doesn't appear at all that the ship is listing or anything in any way. I mean, aside from the fact that the flames are coming out, it's holding still and seems to be maintaining its position. Yes, all of this appears to be happening above the water line, which is good news. There's no evidence of any water coming inside the ship. One thing we did hear is that each compartment on the ship has these are watertight compartments. They have doors. They can seal these areas off. So if there's a problem here, they can prevent it from going elsewhere. Now you can see in this shot that there still are flames inside, but that water is getting in there, and the flames are nothing like, as I said a moment ago, like we were seeing minutes ago. So it seems that this effort, and now there are several ships on scene, is having some effect. I'm counting 1, 2, 3 tugboats assisting the 41-foot Coast Guard utility boat, and 2 of the tugboats are shooting water. A third one is coming up to the side. It will be shooting water inside in a moment, and the firefighting effort has increased quite a bit in just the last few minutes. It does appear, too, that the ship's crew is no longer shooting water from above, which, as you noted earlier, was not being particularly effective. It seemed mostly to be going into the ocean rather than into the ship itself. Do they have the ability then to communicate directly from these tugs to the ship's crew to tell them, look, back off as we try to fight this from below? I don't know that to be true, but I suspect it's the case, in that these tugboats regularly have to communicate with these ships when they bring them into port. So I'm sure that capability exists. What about other cruise ships in the area? You say this is a time of day that a lot of the cruise ships are going out. Are there other cruise ships passing through this area at this time? There would typically be cruise ships in this area, I believe, but I just don't know. I haven't seen any other. All of our efforts have been trained on this one. That's understandable, given the circumstances. All right, we want to return our viewers now to live coverage from the CNN affiliate WFOR TV in Miami. As you can see there that they are interviewing somebody on the telephone now. Let's listen to WFOR.